Hi there, everybody. Welcome to our last global travel update for 2022. Peter Greenberg here with you. And where can I even start today? There's just so much to report. So I thought since this is our last broadcast for 2022, I'd start it with some good news, and I'll try to end it with some good news. And then we'll, of course, get to the matter at hand. Of course, you can always send me your comments and questions, and we'll get to those as well. Let's start with the good news. 2 nights ago, I know none of you were watching, nor would you. Actually, the game started like late at night. And it had the most ridiculous sounding name, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl in Phoenix, Arizona. One of the more ridiculous names of a football game. Anyway, I'm happy to report that the Wisconsin Badgers beat Oklahoma State 24-17. All right, that's the good news. Now let's talk about Southwest. One of the most incredible meltdowns in the history of commercial aviation, where an airline simply decided to throw in the towel. That's the picture, as you can see, of Southwest Airlines plane actually in the air. That's somewhat misleading. This week they canceled more than 12,000 flights. By the way, 87% of all flight cancellations this week, South Airlines. We're basically trapping and stranding 250,000 passengers a day. And they're big. We'll get to that too. So let's talk a little bit about let's see what a departure board looked like. Show this picture. Everything. Well, almost everything. At one point, his arrivals board at Dallas Love Field for Southwest Airlines showed every single living flight canceled. Unbelievable. But now let's talk a little bit about, and we'll get to the baggage too. You can show the shot of the bag if you'd like, or the bags. There they are. That's just Denver. If you wanted to show Dallas, Baltimore, LA, I mean, it just gets worse and worse and worse, not to mention Midway. But let's go back here and analyze what really happened. Here's some other relatively good news. Airline weather forecasting has been really precise. And it's a great tool that the airlines have that they can look ahead and see a developing storm system and react to it quickly, not a creeping delay, but quickly, and then institute what we would call preemptive cancellations, anywhere from 48 to 72 hours out, canceling entire flights, in many cases, entire cities. And the good news about that is you know about it ahead of time. You're keeping your planes and your crews in place together so that when the system moves on, you can ramp up more quickly and not take 72 to 96 hours to get back on track. That's the idea. And the airlines did that this week. Most of them. Well, I say most of them. And as a result, United Airlines only canceled about 5% of their flights. JetBlue canceled about 6% of their flights. American surprised everybody. They only canceled about 1% of their flights. And JetBlue, 70% of their flights on Monday, 62% of their flights Tuesday, and yesterday, close to 3,000 flights today alone. And that had nothing to do with the weather. You know, the key problem here is the definition of the word weather. Airlines have been using it as an excuse, and in many cases, a legitimate reason for flight cancellations, right? Safety first. I get that. No one's going to argue that. But the disproportionate number of cancellations at Southwest during weather leads you to an entirely different conclusion, which, by the way, has been confirmed by Southwest's own CEO, that this is a problem under the operational control of the airline, not weather and an act of God. Their communication system on an internal basis was pathetic, antiquated, old technology. Pilots couldn't find their planes. Flight attendants couldn't find the rest of the crew. And in many cases, Southwest Airlines had no idea where their aircraft were. So given that, and given the fact that they could not handle it manually as well, they essentially threw in the towel and shut down. They weren't equipped for handling passengers in terms of accommodations, meals, alternate forms of transportation. To say it was a mess would be the understatement of the century. Here's the other problem. Southwest Airlines does not have any interline agreements with any other airlines, which means they cannot endorse your ticket to another carrier to have them fly you out. Plus, it was the holidays and the other carriers were full anyway. So if you were flying on a Southwest ticket and the airline wasn't flying, then for all intents and purposes, you weren't flying. Now, you did have some other choices. You could go, if there was space available, and buy a very expensive one-way last-minute ticket on another carrier. Some people did that. Other people formed ad hoc committees of other stranded passengers and went out and rented cars, which were also very expensive, and the drives were crazy, and most of them had to leave without their bags, which brings me to the bags. We're talking thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of bags that are now misplaced and mistagged. And when Southwest Airlines gets back on track, which may not be till Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, then there's going to be the issue with the bags because they're tagged to places that nobody wants to go to anymore. It's a mess. Now, I mentioned that this came under the operational control of the airline. And that's when the Department of Transportation kicks in. As you may know, the Secretary of Transportation deemed this shutdown and meltdown disproportionate and unacceptable. And it was identified clearly as under the operational control of the airline. And so the DOT here has some tools in the toolbox. It's called an enforcement action in the form of what could be a massive fine against Southwest. Now, here's how it works. The DOT doesn't enforce the fine, they only propose the fine. Other federal agencies have to decide whether or not that fine sticks. And in almost every case, historically, when a fine is proposed, let's say by the DOT or the FAA, the actual amount paid is usually a fraction of that, which goes against the whole idea of the reason why you have a fine in the first place. But we'll get to that later. You know there's a fine coming or a proposed fine coming. Southwest knows it too. And they've now made the statement that they're going to reimburse passengers for their hotels, for their meals, for other reasonable expenses that would include clothing, toiletries, and in many cases, alternate forms of transportation. So, how much money are we talking about here? I'm estimating an average payout to most passengers of about $400, which doesn't count any damages or lost work or hours or lost jobs or other things, lost concert tickets they couldn't attend or events they couldn't go to. That's an issue for maybe a class action case in court. But in this case, take that $400, multiply it by 250,000, and then multiply that by 10. This is not happy. If you go to the maximum number on that, we're talking $100 million. My guess is it's going to cost Southwest in the vicinity of $70 million, not counting the proposed fine from the DOT. So stay tuned on that. Now, will Southwest recover from that? They will. Remember, I actually happen to be a fan of Southwest. It's been a consistently efficient and dependable airline, well managed up until now. It's an airline that only flies one piece of equipment, 737. That means they train their pilots on only one piece of equipment and their mechanics. Their spare parts inventory is limited to that one plane. On the ground, their staff is cross-trained, which means the guy who pushes back the plane can also unload bags. And they have a reservoir of very good passenger goodwill, right? They don't nickel and dime you. They don't charge for checked bags. In fact, the airline has branded themselves in that way of not charging for checked bags. So all that's well and good. The problem right now is you have, a few million really angry passengers, and for good reason. In the service industry, I've always said it. It's not the original statement, but I'll take credit for saying it at least. It's not the delivery of the service that matters. What makes real heroes and makes you come back to either stay at a hotel or fly an airline or eat at a restaurant or any other operation is how they recover when there's a problem. And clearly, Southwest Airlines has not recovered here. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Now, many of you are thinking about, well, what are my rights? What can I do? Well, if you're watching me right now, or you have a friend of yours or a family member still stuck at an airport, here's my advice. Number one, keep every receipt you can. Get the first and last name and title of anybody at Southwest you talk to and what they said. Create a paper trail here. You're going to need it. And then separately, write your letter of complaint to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Office of Consumer Affairs. You can find their email address on their website, usdot.gov. And then get ready, because it's going to be crazy. In addition to Southwest starting to make the attempt of reimbursing you, I can guarantee you there'll be some class action lawsuits. But forgetting all of that, what can the DOT do here? Is there such a thing as a passenger bill of rights? And the answer is a qualified no. Because under deregulation, nobody gets to regulate the airlines. Now, the states have tried. You may remember a number of state legislatures passing a law about an airline passenger bill of rights that were signed by their respective governors. And what happened right after that? The airlines took those states to court, claiming they had no jurisdiction because of the 1978 Airline Deregulation Act. And guess who won? The airlines. They were right. So does that mean there won't be an airline passenger bill of rights? Not necessarily. It will come in the form of rulemaking by the Department of Transportation. And there's precedent for this. Do you remember the tarmac delay rule for a couple of years ago? For those of you who don't remember, there were so many instances of passengers on planes that pushed back from gates and then were stuck on tarmacs and runways for hours, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours, going absolutely nowhere, nothing to eat, nothing to drink, people getting sick, and airlines just not going back to the gate. So the US DOT enacted the tarmac delay rule. And what it says is, if you push back from the gate and you keep those passengers essentially prisoner for more than 3 hours without returning to the gate first, you're liable to a fine of up to $27,500 per passenger. Now let's do the math. On a 737, that's already in seven figures. And the airlines bitched and screamed and said, we can't do this, it's unfair, we'll never be able to do it. Really? In the years since the tarmac delay rule has been in force, how many fines have been paid or even enacted? Very few. It does work. So it's incumbent now upon the US DOT and Secretary Buttigieg to come up with a clearly delineated, effective, and detailed passenger bill of rights. Because right now, people think, oh, the airline's going to cover my hotel, they're going to cover my meals, my hotel, if I have to buy a shirt, pair of pants, socks, and underwear. No, there's no legal mandate right now on the books for airlines required to do that. None. I think we need to have that. People need to know where they stand. So we will stand by and see how quickly there's going to be an enforcement action by the DOT. I would bet my career there'll be a fine. I'll bet my career that Southwest Airlines will try to mitigate the fine by writing even more reimbursement checks. But still, we're still missing something. And that's a clearly delineated rulemaking opportunity from the DOT to finally give us a passenger bill of rights. So that's, there's that. Now, one more thing I'm going to share before we go to your notes. If you are either stranded at an airport as a Southwest passenger or know somebody who is, there's one sort of relief news. You do not have to add the movie Planes, Trains, and Automobiles to your holiday watch list. You know why? Because you already unwittingly starred in the sequel. Now let's go to some of your questions, and we'll come back, I promise you, with some good news at the end. All right, Jamie's World is saying hi from the UK. Debbie's weighing in from warm Boynton Beach, Florida. Scott's saying hello from Cape Canaveral. Any plans for retirement in 2023? You trying to tell me something? Answer is no. Zora saying hello from Antarctica Peninsula. Silver wind and happy new year to you. Right back at you, Zora. And I'm glad you made it down to Antarctica. April saying hello from Las Vegas. Jamie's World says advice on traveling to or from China. Should we do it? Well, as you know, as of January 8th, they're lifting the quarantine requirement in China for world travelers. And it's about time. However, the number of COVID cases continues to rise now. And as you may have heard, the U.S. is now imposing a mandatory COVID test negative in order to come back from China. Anybody traveling back from China or from China for the first time, for Chinese travelers as well. All right, Debbie's saying she's now unburied in Buffalo. The airport's now open. Okay, Robin's saying hello from Williamsburg. Okay, here we go. Colleen's saying we'll be traveling in and out of London in a few months. It looks like the most efficient way to get to King's Cross downtown is by the tube, starting with the Piccadilly station at the airport, or would you take a taxi instead? Yeah, if you have a lot of money, taxi ride's going to cost you about $100. So, look, if you're not schlepping 9 bags, I always take the tube, and I always take the, I don't always take the, I take the train, the Heathrow Express or the Gatwick Express. I don't always take the tube, I'll be honest. Alan's saying hello from Fort Lee. Okay. Hello from Alabama. Okay. Paul's saying, I'm thinking of Japan in late May. When would be the best time to buy tickets? You know what? I would buy tickets in February. All right, give yourself about 2.5 months. Sandy goes, any news on the gem opening? This is becoming the most ridiculous question, not because you asked it, because I can't get an answer from the Egyptians. The pharaohs move quicker. By the way, the museum has been finished for a long time. The exhibits are in place. The restoration work continues in their workshops. They're just not open because they're trying to figure out a time to have a huge dramatic, fireworks, foreign leaders, the whole kit and caboodle. The problem is they can't find the kit and caboodle. And we'll ask again, but I hope it will be in 2023. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay. Oh, Boston Bob is tuning in from where the USA began. Okay, Bob. Okay. Interesting post here from Tim about Southwest Airlines. This is exactly what I'm talking about. It's not just passengers stranded by Southwest. It's their employees, their pilots, their flight attendants, their ground personnel. There are not enough people in Denver right now to even load bags. There you go. Terry Hart saying, go Badgers. And our basketball team is ranked number 15. All right, some good news. All right, Nancy says we're planning on going to Scotland at the end of April. Should we book our flight now or wait till the new year? Well, the new year will be in 2 days. My guess is, as long as it's not Easter, you can start to book in February. Okay? Priya's watching from Irvine. All right. Moses is following from Nairobi. Happy holidays. Right back at you, Moses. April wants to know, will Southwest Airlines recover? Of course they will. But the question is, can they get in front of this story? And so far, the answer is they haven't. The communications from their CEO have, I think, have been inadequate. People need details. They need concrete information. And bottom line is this, and let's not kid ourselves. For every 12 hours an airline is shut down, it takes them about 36 hours to get back on track, right? To reunite crews with planes, make sure the planes are in sequence, back on schedule, and the routes are operated. Well, this has been going on now for 6 or 7 days, really. And as a result, do the math. You'll be lucky if Southwest gets back on schedule by next Wednesday. And in fact, Southwest is telling many of their passengers right now they can't even rebook them until next Tuesday. And that's if there's space. Irene's in Rhode Island. Camilla's in Tucson. Okay. Somebody finally got through to Southwest, but not really. Joan, greetings from California. We leave on Southwest in a week, so I hope they've got their act together by then. Well, if you're saying a week from today and you're already holding space, there's a good chance you'll make it. All right, Tanzania's checking in. Hello, guys. That's Gerald and Ken and all of our friends in Arusha and in Dar es Salaam. Robin wants to know, am I stuck somewhere broadcasting from a vehicle? Gee, I don't know, Robin. What do you think? You know what? The show must go on. I'm actually in Bayshore, Long Island, and could not get to my house because of a major funeral here of a fallen firefighter. We have about 3,000 firefighters from all over Nassau and Suffolk County and New York who are attending the funeral that's happening right now of a fallen firefighter from Islip, New York. And so I've pulled over to the side of the road and using hotspots to be able to make this on time. So thank you for noticing I'm in a car, because I am. Okay, let's keep going here. Greetings from Richmond, Virginia, from Harriet and Jim. We're going to a wedding at the end of February. Best time to purchase tickets now? Well, if it's the end of February, then you've exhausted the President's Day weekend mess. You can buy tickets now. Greetings from Queens in New York. Hello, Iris. Mary says, I was on a flight yesterday where the gate agent refused to board the plane until someone volunteered to take a later flight. There was a $500 gift card, but was it really voluntary? Well, this brings up an interesting point about your rights if they overbook a flight. They ask for volunteers. Now, they may offer you a $100 voucher or $200 voucher, but if nobody volunteers, the price goes up. It's an auction that benefits you. And I was on a flight once where I really needed to get to where I needed to go, so I wasn't going to volunteer. And then I went up to $500. And I said, nope, still got to go. It went up to $800. Nope, not moving. I got to go. When it got to, everybody has their price. And when it got to $1,500, I said, you know what? I can go later. And as I stood up, I was trampled by everybody else who had come to the exact same conclusion. Obviously, I didn't get the money and I didn't get the voucher, but that's what happens. So my advice to you is if they go to an auction like that, sit down, don't say a word, and wait till the price goes up, because it will. Anna wants to know, do you think we will see COVID mandates? Not like we did before. Nope, not like we did before. The mandates we're seeing right now are for specific locations around the world, like China, as they're opening up, coming to the U.S. And I have no idea how effective that's going to be, but that'll be the mandate for any traveler coming from China to America. Happy New Year to you too, Evelyn, and happy holidays to Patricia. Say hi to Daryl in Charleston. Anna says, I love the Gatwick Express. Me too. Me too. It actually works. Okay. Thank you, Betty, for those kind words. EE says, hi, Peter. Oh, Eunice. There it is. I'll be cruising out of Miami last week in March. Virgin Voyages. When should I buy the round trip out of LAX? I do it now. Unless, yeah, I would do it now. By the way, I have to give you one caution, Eunice. If you've been on a Virgin ship, I'm assuming you haven't yet, think about this. About 12 different bars on the ship, free-flowing alcohol, and a tattoo parlor on board. What could possibly go wrong? I have visions of people waking up the next morning, rolling down their sleeve and go, who's Betty? Anyway, have fun. Stay away from the tattoo parlor. All right. Mark says, he's saying hi from Chicago. If I have a Southwest airline ticket on Saturday, It's a waste of time expecting anything that day, right? You know what? Do the words slim and none ring a bell? I wouldn't count on that at all. Thank you for that nice word, Evelyn. Patricia says, do I know when the new Terminal A is going to open at Newark? Well, I just was at Terminal A about 3 weeks ago, and it was operating. Iola Travel and Tours, going to Greece in August. When should we be getting our flights? You can do it in February. You know, for high season travel, you don't want to book 54 days in advance, but that should be doing it. Okay. Debbie says, I got a letter from Southwest to business customers apologizing and a link for reimbursement for business travelers. Well, I'm sure that's special, and I'm sure they're meaning well, but how many business travelers do you think were flying over Christmas? No. Many of the people who were flying Southwest over the Christmas holidays and the New Year's holidays were people who might only fly once or twice a year. They plan way in advance for this. They're going to see their friends and their relatives and their families. They have no need for a ticket voucher now or a future flight credit. Remember, under the DOT rules, if an airline cancels your flight for any reason whatsoever, you're entitled to an immediate and full refund to your original form of purchase, even if you bought a so-called non-refundable ticket. And I'd love to see what that online form looks like, by the way. Scott saying hi from Jacksonville. Omaha's weighing in. Karen saying hi. Miriam saying, we booked our flight from Nashville to Orlando on January 1st. We were due to fly on December 29th. Should we try to rent a car? I'm assuming you're talking about a Southwest flight. January 1st, they're not going to be back on track yet. I don't care what Southwest says. They're really deciding they're not going to fly much of their schedule until sometime next week. And January 1st is Sunday. Nancy says our daughter has a ticket on Southwest for January 1st. Here we go again. Should she look for alternative way home? Yes. Gina says, hi, Peter from the quiet skies over San Diego. Southwest is the majority of the air traffic here. Well, not today, it's not, but I understand what you're saying. Thank you, Robin, for that nice note about the firefighter. Okay, Boston says, would be interesting to know the data on Southwest freight that was or adversely affected by the weather. Well, anything that was carried in the belly of the plane was adversely affected. Nothing went, including perishable goods. So the damages here have yet to be assessed, right? And the actual baggage claim loss will be interesting too for passengers. Hello, Jukrit. You're saying hi from Jan. Another folks in Tanzania. Okay. You got it. Karen says, greetings from Atlanta. I'm going to Europe in September. When is a good time to book travel? Well, when in September? If it's after September 8th, wait. Those prices will come way down. The computer algorithms that the airlines use to project demand and set prices are not going to help you now. They're not going to be adjusted until sometime in July. All right, so wait. Okay. Do I see airline tickets going down at the end of January? I see them going down in 2 weeks. We're already seeing some softening at airlines like JetBlue. Obviously, you're going to see some amazing airfare sales coming up in the middle of January from, let's see, which airline would that be? Southwest. So yes, the answer is yes. Okay, any follow-up information cause on the Viking ship in the Drake Passage whose window blew out? Yes. Normal wave height in the Drake Passage at this time of the year, I was just down there a couple of weeks ago, you can get as high as 15 feet. This particular wave was 45 feet. That's the rogue wave. You don't see it coming, and there's no way to adjust to it because before you know it, it's there. It's got such strength that it can actually bend steel and push in, and that's exactly what happened. On that particular passage, I know this because I was there at the time, there are about 2 or 3 other ships that made the decision to turn back because it was too rough for them to head north. A Viking continued on. And had there not been a rogue wave, they were going to be perfectly fine in 15-foot waves. The ship is built for that. But no ship is built for a 45-foot rogue wave. And that's what happened. Okay, which USA airlines do you think really are top notch as far as their handling of epic snowstorms? Heard United American. Oh yeah, I see what you're saying, April. Well, let's do first question. It's not which airline is good at it. It's which airport allows them to be good at it, right? So the airport that allows airlines to be great at it is Salt Lake City. If you take a look at a 365-day calendar, call the folks in Salt Lake and ask them, how many days last year, or the year before, or the year before that, or this year, did they close because of snow? You'll be surprised. I think the answer is 0. So if you have an airport that has their snow removal up to date, great. Now, conversely, you go to other airports that are not used to a lot of it, like Dallas. You know, if you have a flurry, they close. Go to Milan, Italy. They have one flurry of snow, they shut down. So there you have it. Now, your second question is, you heard United American are offering a set price for stranded Southwest passengers. What they've done, and this is about goodwill, is that they've capped the ticket prices on one-way tickets for passengers on Southwest who need to get home. Remember, even if you get a capped ticket price from United American, which is a good thing, keep all your receipts so you can submit the claim. Okay. Miriam says we have travel cancellation insurance. Should we claim reimbursement from Southwest or our travel insurance? Well, do both. Do both, because remember, on both policies, meaning the insurance policy that you have or the customer assistance policy, not an insurance policy, that Southwest is revising as we're speaking, there will be exclusions. You're not going to get paid in full from anybody, right? It's called deductibles. So yeah, file both. Okay, and I loved that Gatwick Express. Robert Watson, my pal from Washington, D.C., took Amtrak to New York City on Christmas Day, paid $60, booked it 3 weeks ago. That's the way to go. And Robert should know he's my concierge king in Washington, D.C. What airlines and hotel chains do I think will be merging in 2023? I'll look at it another way. If you have Marriott with 32 or 31 brands, and Hilton's up there close to 20, I may be wrong with Intercontinental, they're pretty close to 20. Here's the challenge I've always given all of these brands. I understand that you have all these different brands with different names. Can you, first of all, name them all? Most people can't. And if you can, and I'll give you a pass if you happen to work for the company like Marriott, then what I want you to do is define them for me, distinguish them for me. And if you can't distinguish your brand, you can't justify your rates. So I'm thinking that by the end of 2023, we will see some brands within these portfolios disappear. Okay. Tanya wants to know when's a good time to book for Memorial Day weekend. Well, that's an example where you know when it is, right? You know when July 4th is, you know when the Wednesdays before Thanksgiving. Good time to book? Now. Okay? Because the prices are only going to go up. Let me scroll back up here, make sure I didn't miss anybody. Oh, and by the way, some other things. It's time to show you a little bit of respite here. The photo of the week. Anybody want to tell me where that is? Anybody? Well, first of all, we congratulate Bob McCone. And I know where it was taken because I've been there. Portugal. They went to Nazar to look at the 100-foot waves. Some serious surfing out there. But beautiful, peaceful village. I'm a big fan of a village called, well, there are a couple of villages in the Algarve I like. Lagos is one of my favorites, and Nazar is up there too. Bob, congratulations on the photo. And if you think you've got a photo that qualifies as the photo of the week, you know what to do. Send it in, and if we agree with you, we'll post it. Let's go to some of your questions that you sent in. So many questions about Southwest Airlines. You know, what are you entitled to in terms of compensation? Will Southwest refund me the difference because I had to purchase a new flight on another airline? All of these things I think are going to happen. Southwest cannot hide behind the weather excuse here. The smartest thing Southwest can do is get out their checkbook and own up to it and get in front of the story. It'll be costly, but I look at it another way. It's not what it costs, it's what it's worth. Okay. How many Southwest flights are currently flying? Is it the luck of the draw? Yeah, it is the luck of the draw. Based on their published schedule, only about 21% of the scheduled Southwest flights are flying, and that's only if they can find crews to work it. It's haphazard, and there are no guarantees. Because remember, you're also dealing with crews becoming illegal and timing out. Remember, Southwest flies point to point, and if you miss one leg of that point, you miss them all. And remember, when I say Southwest Airlines can't hide behind the weather excuse, let's get real here. Is it an operational issue for Southwest? Did it violate their own consumer protection rules within the airline? I think that's a rhetorical question. Look, if an airline cancels flights 7 days in a row, if it strands passengers with ranging from infants to folks who were seniors or disabled, with no money, no clean clothes, no place to sleep, no food, no medication is needed, and no help from the airline, at least, in arranging alternate transportation, guys, it's a no-brainer. They violated their own consumer protection requirements, and that consequences. And I'm saying this as a fan of Southwest. Look, the game plan here is simple and immediate. They should be using every social media platform they have to communicate real-time updates, real-world updates from real people, and get to work. Now, oh yeah, let's go through this now. As we are approaching New Year's Eve, which will be Saturday, I'm reminded that I used to beg my parents to let me stay up late. Now, I'm hoping I can go to bed early. But in the old days, when I got permission to stay up late, I would go into my mom's kitchen, and some of you may be old enough to remember this, and she had a collection of Revereware. Those are the silver pots with the copper bottoms, and I'd get a big metal ladle, even though it was freezing, usually. We'd open up the windows, and at the stroke of midnight, as Guy Lombardo and his Royal Canadians played Auld Lang Syne from the ballroom of the Waldorf Astoria, I was given permission to bang the hell out of those pots. And I want you to know that Saturday night, I've kept my mom's Revereware, and I'm going to open the window and do it again. And I hope you will too. Now, the two more things. I promised you I would end with some good news. But first, I have to show you this ad. It's not real, but it basically says what so many passengers have been going through this week, and hopefully we'll never have to go through again. This is what a Southwest ad going forward might look like. All right, we've dumped on Southwest enough today, but I couldn't resist that one. I hope you're laughing. And finally, I did promise you some good news. Let me tell you the story of the dog at San Francisco International. A passenger arrived on a foreign airline, and the dog wasn't properly licensed or vetted. And instead of doing the homework to keep the dog, the passenger left the dog at the airport and continued on their flight. And so United Airlines employees, faced with this, decided, let's take care of the dog. The dog was 12 weeks old when they got it. And now the dog is 6 months old, and I'm happy to report the dog has been adopted out. Let's show the photo. There's the United team. There's the beautiful, happy dog, 6 months old, and it's been adopted out by a United Airlines pilot. And he, of course, here we go with branded messages again. He's named the dog Polaris. And but in another good stroke, United Airlines donated $5,000 to the local ASPCA. So good for them. Guys, I wish everybody a happier new year. It's going to get better. And obviously, I'll be back next week to celebrate the new year with you. Our radio show this week comes from as far away as possible from Southwest Airlines. And it might surprise you. So listen in for our special New Year's show. That's 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Check your local radio stations, or you can listen to it live streaming. Just go to our website, petergreenberg.com. One of the couple of notes in terms of programming, Hidden Canary Islands, you can watch it on Amazon. The Royal Tour of Tanzania on Amazon and PBS as well. And coming in March, I take that back, coming in February, our special on Hidden Saudi Arabia. In March, Hidden Ireland. And after that, Hidden Aegean, part of our Hidden series. So I hope you get a chance to watch that. In the meantime, I'll see you on CBS, both television and radio. Have a great weekend. Please be safe. Have a happy new year, a happier new year, and I'll see you soon.